Okay, good evening. I am calling to order the City Council meeting of March 15th, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Hinton.
Here.
Oh,
That's just me. That was, I messed up.
no.
She's got to individually.
Okay, just a second. I'm looking for you. You have to push your button. Okay. Oh. We're all going to have a little grace tonight. So, all right.
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
That little
Here.
microphone is.
Councilmember Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
All 7 members present.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We'll get this down in a week or two. Presentations, seeing none, that's item 4. Item 4B, appointments to boards or commissions, have none tonight. Item 5, City Council agenda requests. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future consideration. And I'm going to start with Council Member Duncan tonight. So let me get the microphone thing going here. So she has to push her button first, right? And then I.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. I think you're on.
What was this question? Red. It's red.
Council, item 6. I'm sorry, item 5. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future agenda consideration.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Applegate.
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Camera's off the page. Councilmember Estes.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Corey. I need like a stylus. That's what I'm gonna need. My finger's too fat. Doesn't bother me at all. All right, thank you.
Oh, there I am. I actually had a question. I know they did some improvements outside of the Public Works building, utilities building over there. And I noticed that the drop box that was
Yeah,
outside previously was
This
gone.
is for agenda requests. Is this for an agenda item you want on the agenda, or you just want to? Do you have an item you want to put on the agenda, or you just want
I
to?
don't know if that's necessarily, I don't know if that's necessarily an agenda item, but I was just something I wanted to bring up for
Okay.
future improvements, you know, and just a question to ask. I don't know if that's something
Okay.
staff can answer right now or not.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay.
But so it's not an agenda request. You don't need an update on it.
Okay. So an update, it was a
Okay.
little later, I guess, move for later than
Okay,
to be addressed later. So.
sounds good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Request they put.
Yeah. So when it's time when we go around. Okay. Alrighty, Councilmember Hinton.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, and Councilmember Rick.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to schedule a discussion regarding our rules of procedure. When we all got, before we got sworn in, we went through some initial training with the city attorney. And one of the things that I remember was he said we should be using our rules and Robert's Rules of Order. When I went with Ms. Huffman, I went through the procedures. She was kind enough to send them to me. And there's nothing about using Robert's Rules of Order in our proceedings. So I think we should have a discussion as to what our actual rules of procedures are, and do we want to make any changes at some future point?
Well, that is easy enough to have that sent out to the council members for them to look through. However, I believe we should break it into two separate things to look over procedures and study them. And I believe taking on Robert's Rules of Order requires reading by every council member before we can do it. So that's about 700 and some pages. I'm sure the library has copies of it because I'm not going to be like Nancy Pelosi and say that we're going to read something after we adopt it. So, Sylvia, can we get the procedures please sent out to everyone and we can add that onto the agenda? Absolutely. Okay.
There is the CML has a Bob's Rule of Order, which is a condensed version, which is only 24 pages.
Well, that's not what you asked for. You asked for Robert's Rules of Order.
So that's why I asked for a discussion. Do we want Roberts? Do we want Bob's? Do we want something else?
Or are there procedures we have already perfectly fine?
That's the
Because I
question.
read through them and we are following the procedures.
That's the
So
question that
let's
I
put that
have.
on for discussion item. We already have an item on for the first meeting in April. So that will go for the discussion item at the second meeting in April. And Sylvia, I would ask that you get those out to the council members by Friday, if possible.
Thank
Okay,
you, Madam Mayor.
thank you. All right. Okay. So that brings us up to public to be heard. And I do have one card and for tonight and from Mr. Al Linder. So if Mr. Linder, oh, okay, couldn't see it back there. All righty. And so it says you have questions for Mrs. Thompson and Miss Estes. You want to speak your mind. Sylvia, please be sure and start the.
Al Linder, REA Road. Yeah, I do have some questions, Mrs. Thompson.
Hang on just one second.
And Miss,
Okay. Can you hang on just one second? I want to make sure your mic's on. Okay, sorry. Okay.
question for each of you. Mrs. Thompson, how many years have you been on city council?
I was on city council representing Ward 1 for 8 years.
That was my ward. I never saw you. Thank you. Mrs. Estes, how many years have you been?
Thank you.
I've been on for 2 years.
Well, with all that's happening in the community, especially with the de-annexation of the Colorado Springs, which is going to take place here shortly. And, you know, I got this paper here when you were running for mayor, and you specifically said some things here with all the goals to address aging roads across the city to ensure and maintain adequate water supply, among other things. Mr. Blankenship, how many years have you been on the job?
2 years, sir.
Why is it that we all of a sudden have a shortage of water and you didn't know it? Why is it this de-annexation is going to happen on your watch? What do you feel? How do you feel about that? Because once it starts, I think probably I'm going to really be speaking up a lot. And, you know, everybody in this room probably knows that you and I do not get along. And you've accused me of several things years ago which never took place. So on your watch, we're going to have our land de-annexed, and we're going to have all these cars coming through this little tiny little road of Ohio. What are you going to do for us? What are you going to do about this whole situation? What are you going to do about all the roads the way everything is happening? The other day, we had a little itty bitty snowstorm and you couldn't get out of this city for an hour. And I called the city manager and I said to him, what the heck is going on? But as soon as you got to the highway, there was no traffic at all. The traffic around here is outrageous, and I want to know what you're going to do about it. The lights here suck. The school buses stopping here suck. The highway exit of 128, you could die with a motorcycle. Anybody that tries to get off that exit, their lives are, anything could happen. Because when they're lined up in the right lane and those trucks are coming down that road doing 70 and 80 miles an hour, just one accident to hit the rear of that line, and a lot of people are going to die. What are you going to do about it, Mrs. Thompson?
Are you done? Because I don't want to interrupt your 3 minutes. You do have 3 minutes of
No,
time
I
to say
just asked
everything
you a
you said.
question. What are
That's
you
fine. I
gonna
don't
do?
want to get into your
What are you
time.
going to do about our community? You're the mayor now. What are you going to do?
Well, I've been hopefully placing in some positions with PPACG for regional support on the big issues that we have to bring, regional dollars to down here. We've also been, as a council, working on roadway issues, discussing possible ballot measures. We did ordain a roadway study to have that done so we can find out and prioritize which roads need to be done first. The water issue, we had a different person in charge of the utilities who was reporting water one way, and Mr. Blankenship came in and he wanted to do a study and report it another way so that we were a little bit more confident before we start agreeing to things. And so we're going by the information we have today. I totally believe that every council makes decisions based on the information they have that day. We have updated information on those things. And so we're working off the updated information we have now as a council, all 7 of us, just like we did before. When the former mayor was mayor, we all worked together as a council to address those issues.
Okay, so my big question is, you've been on city council for 8 years, and why didn't you have any clue of our water shortage? When
Well,
I
you
was
can
on
go
city
back and you
council,
can
when I
see,
was
you
on
can hear
city
a number
council,
of
I told
times.
them, you can buy all the water you want, but when the water's not in the pond, it's not coming out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Any further comments from anyone in the public? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to the consent agenda. Ms. Bailey, before we do that, did you want to say anything about the meeting last night under public comment? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council, for a few courtesy minutes. Kimberly Bailey, Economic Development Director for your city. Last night, we did have our monthly general board meeting for the Economic Development Commission, and we had a very vibrant conversation with some of our public constituents interested in bringing a grocer to our community core. And we actually had a really warm engagement, I have to say. So I think we've given them some ancillary direction of what the next steps could be. And we did encourage them to keep coming and having engagement with the EDC regarding this particular matter of vitality for this district. So, and we echoed your strategic mission, your strategic plan, your objectives recently adopted, and those elements are actually outlined within that mission scope. So I applaud you as our mayor and council for stewarding that particular area of interest in advance. And we are continually working on behalf of that as a department measure.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you being there. And I don't think I've ever heard of 30 or so people at an EDC meeting before. So that was good new tradition to start, right? All righty. Okay, so on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of the council. I'm sorry? Mr. Rick?
Move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilmember Corey, hang on, let me find your name.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Why? All right, please vote. Okay, mine only went to 4.
Mine did as well.
Okay, so only 4 people had voted. Oh, hang on. Would you like us to
Yes,
revote?
because my
Okay,
screen is blank.
Please
now. The 4
revote.
went away.
okay, now I have 7.
7 yes, motion carried. The vote is on the screen.
Okay. Now I have this extra screen I gotta remember to look at too. All righty. Okay, on to item 8, old business. We have no old business. Item 9, new business. Item 9A, we have no consideration of items removed from the consent agenda. That brings us to item 9B, request for approval of a park permit and in-kind sponsorship for Field of Drinks Brew Fest.
Madam Mayor, that's mine. I have the VIP rights like she
All right.
does. Isn't it great? Isn't it great?
I don't know who you are.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and City Council, we have received an application for a special event permit for an event to be held in Metcalf Park. The Fountain Up team is partnering up with our local brewery, Peaks and Pines Brewery, to host this event. The portion that we are requesting from City Council is in-kind services for this event. The Madam Mayor had asked me to bring information on how this works and how we've done it in the past. As you know, recently you approved a special event permit for Thunder in the Valley. Resolution 17024 allows and sets the criteria for event permits with city sponsorship. Ultimately, we go through and we don't decide, it's actually written how much each employee is going to make to come out to that event, and that in-kind service is then tallied. If that total is anything over $500, it comes before City Council to request approval on that. So we're making the assumption that this request will be over $500, considering that we're going to need police officers, we're going to need medical team there, parks and streets. And we do have some representatives from Fountain Up and from Peaks and Pines Brewery if you guys have any questions.
Is this like the first annual?
Yes,
Okay,
being optimistic, yes.
yeah. All right. Okay, I don't drink. So what is a brew fest?
A brew fest is, it's an opportunity to bring folks from all over to participate in a festival in which they get to taste a variety of beers. We have right now 20 breweries throughout Colorado Springs, breweries that are interested in attending. We serve in little 2-ounce servings so they can taste a variety of all the 20 breweries. And just we're thinking of having live music and lots of food trucks and just making it a fun outdoor daytime event. And so they happen a lot in the city, excuse me, of Colorado Springs. But, you know, a lot of times are nonprofit organizations that have those because they can earn a lot of money. But we're doing this. The breweries themselves are coordinating this and putting this on, and hopefully with a sponsorship of Fountain Up and the city of Fountain, and then we can give some money back to those entities, or to Fountain Up specifically, and bring some traffic and recognition. And hey, Fountain is kind of up there with Colorado Springs, and we're not little, we're with it just like everybody else, and we're growing just like everybody else, and opportunity people see Fountain and see what it's about and come out. That's the hope
And
and plan.
every brewery that comes out, I assume the servers are trained under tips? I
So the
believe it is?
way it will work is I will pull a license with the state under my brewery license. So I will have liquor liability insurance under that. And we do, yes, every brewery is trained to tip certified and pouring. That's not to say we can catch every incident, but we are watchful of those things and of the pouring and over pouring. And partly too, that's why we have security and we have volunteers to help us keep all of that contained and in control and, flowing smoothly. But it will be a state liquor license under my license. And then I will carry insurance and cover additional insured for Metcalf Park in the city of Fountain.
Okay, anybody else?
She said it all.
Yeah.
21 and up
Yeah,
can only can enter. No kids.
And by doing it during the day too, it helps keep that party atmosphere a little less partied. 2 ounces at a time.
Okay. Alrighty, here, do you have a question for them about it, or Mr. Rick? Okay, all right. Let me find my stylus, get rid of my fat fingers here. Okay,
When are we looking to hold this event? I didn't see a date.
July 2nd, Saturday, July 2nd. So it'd be in conjunction with the 4th of July weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're
That's all,
welcome.
that's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Estes. I think you're on.
I just want to say, I think it's a great idea. I know that Manitou Springs has a brew fest and they do wonderful. They do it with their historic preservation. So I'm excited to see something happening in our community. So thank you.
Happy to do it.
Okay, so we have an item before us. Do I have a motion on that item? Not seeing it. Councilmember Estes.
I move to approve the request by Fountain Up for the event park permit and in-kind sponsorship.
Councilmember Duncan.
I said.
Yeah, because I have to scroll down.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item 9B, request for a park permit and an in-kind city sponsorship for the Field of Drinks Brew Fest? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, got the voting button down. One thing to go, one thing down. Okay. All right, I am opening a public hearing to consider an amended and restated service plan for the Ventana Metropolitan District. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Christy Martinez with the Planning Department. This item was advertised as a public hearing. Per the statutory public notice requirements, the petitioners on behalf of the district must notify all property owners within the district boundaries, all special districts within a 3-mile radius of the district boundaries, and publish the notice within a newspaper of general circulation within the community. The petitioners did not meet all of the required public notice requirements under the statute. Therefore, City Council cannot consider the amended and restated service plan tonight. The petitioners are currently working on redoing the notice to provide proper notice to all individuals required under the statute, and this item will be brought before council at a later date for consideration.
Okay, so Madam City Clerk, is it appropriate that I just close the public hearing and we don't take comment at this time since it wasn't advertised correctly? Thank you. I'm closing the public hearing. Fastest one we've ever had, probably will ever have again. All right. On to item 9D, Resolution 22-012, a resolution amending the appropriation of fiscal year 2022 budgeted funds. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. John Lewis, Finance Director. I'm presenting in one resolution two parts to our budget for 2022. One is the carry forward budget and the other part is the supplemental. And I'll explain those a little bit more because I know people from the public who are not familiar with this would like to hear this. City Council, you adopted a budget for 2022 on October 26, 2021, but final numbers for certain capital expenditures, construction projects, et cetera, were not available to finance until February of this year. And therefore, we have what is called a carry forward budget. And what that is the remaining amounts of those capital items that now need to be spent in 2022, because although they were budgeted for 2021, they will not be completed and the purchases will not be completed until 2022. This carry forward budget amendment process is a standard process and a best practice, as it is called from Government Finance Officers Association, for ensuring the capital projects spanning more than one budgetary period are continued and efficiently completed. In addition, staff is now aware of certain required 2022 expenditures, and this is the second part of it, that were not included in the 2022 adopted budget for a variety of reasons, including but not limited to non-capital items that were previously appropriated and not spent, such as the master transportation plan. We have not completed that, so we are adding it to the 2022 budget. Other items include increased property casualty insurance, and we didn't know what those premiums were until after the budget, the increase in the premiums until after the budget was appropriated. Rent on a county health building that you subsequently approved a lease on. Specific expenditures for various actuarial reports, easy for me to say, that are required for the audit. And so we're recommending that the budgets for general water, electric, conservation trust, volunteer fire pension, and health insurance funds be amended for those items. So I'll go through them quickly. If you would, Paul, pull up the first template of the numbers. You see here the items that are in the carry forward budget. Again, these are carryover capital projects. I won't go through all of them. I'll go through the major ones. And then before we move on to the supplemental items, I'll see if you have any questions. We have various improvements, audiovisual that you see here and in other buildings that were previously approved by you to come out of our ARPA fund grants, and certain computer equipment software improvements that need to be done. The fire ladder truck, it was approved last year and I think even the year before when we ordered it, and it takes a long time to for those trucks to be built and brought to us. So those funds are coming out of the public safety reserves, and that's for the fire ladder truck of $1,098,392. We have various code enforcement improvements $400,000 for the building for parks that was planned for 2021, but because of COVID, we are now going to be building it in 2022. And also the Aga Park concession and restroom building and certain other park improvements such as skate parks, landscaping. You had approved money for skate parks that now will be carried forward. So that covers the general fund. In the water fund, we have the Aga Park water treatment plant building and certain water improvements, including Charter Oak water line relocation and the Fountain Reservoir study and various computer equipment software. In the electric fund, it's a computer equipment software engineering and planning for SCADA and asset management software. And in the Conservation Trust Fund, it's the completion of the Adams Space open space bridge repair and Metcalf play equipment. The additional carry forward for streets capital improvement, the moving Fountain Forward remaining funds of $970,374. Those improvements or that money has been committed to the Indiana crossing for the last couple of years. We're waiting on the railroad to finish the work they have and the approvals that come from them, and then we can spend that money. And then last but not least, in the Public Transportation Fund, we received a grant in 2020 to be completed by 2022, certain bus shelter improvements. And so those will be completed in 2022. So before I move on to the supplemental, I ask if you have any questions on the carry forward of the capital assets and capital projects that are outlined in the carry forward budget.
Mr. Applegate? Did I turn you on? No, I didn't turn you on. Okay. That
Yeah, I
came
had
out
a
really
question
well.
on the additional property casualty insurance, the premium. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 of them. They add up to 30,300. Why are those different line items instead of just one? It looks like the same thing.
Oh, just to explain where they go. Now, you're looking at the supplemental budget, not the carry forward?
Right.
Okay. But it's just they go to different departments. 1150 is administration, 2211 is police. So it's different premiums for different departments that are charged to those departments.
Okay, does anybody have any further questions on the carryover requests?
You are correct that they'll all be paid out of one bank account though. So, but we have to charge them to different accounts. Any questions on the carryovers? As far as the supplemental budget then, Paul, if we could move to the next slide. I'm sorry, keep going because we're still on capital. One more slide. There we go. You can see that we are receiving a grant from a CDBG grant for Prada Drive ADA improvements. That grant was awarded in 2021, but it'll be received upon completion of the 2022 project. We also have $69,000 of grant revenue, and those are to pay for certain things within the police department, those being vests and uniform costs for vests and carriers. And that was a grant that we are receiving. So to go over the large items here on the supplemental budget, the Southmore Drive ADA improvements, although we are going to receive a grant, we still have to get your approval to spend the money. The same with the $69,000 of the police department uniform vests and carriers. We do have the additional property casualty insurance. There's also, you notice $78,000 of professional services, which is the remaining balance on the master transportation plan. And as I said, this is like a carry forward, but it has to be included in the supplemental because it's not a capital item. The same with the miscellaneous purchase services. You had approved 250,000 of business impact assistance to be spent out of ARPA funds. And we still have 249,887 to be spent on that. We have 156,214 left on the pavement management survey that was not completed in 2021. It will be completed in 2022. And in the electric fund, there are a few items there. Hold on just a second. That, oh, I'm sorry, we've got the water fund. We've got $80,000 of improvements to construct a water loop to improve water quality. 250 for the purchase of existing Kiewit raw water line and an associated easement for the first phase of the Fountain Reservoir project. In electric, a few minor things, the insurance premium increase and their portion of the rent on the El Paso County Health Building. For Conservation Trust, we have additional $40,000 of improvements that we'd like to do on the Adams open space. For volunteer fire pension, these are the costs of the actuarial reports that are due for the auditors. And same with the health insurance fund. We have an additional cost for the actuarial report that is required by GASB 67 and 68 for the audit. So with that, I'd ask if there are any questions on these supplemental requests.
Mr. Rick, I bumped it again. Look at you going. Okay.
Yes, thank you for the information. Two quick questions.
Sure.
The ARPA Business Fund, we're got like 249,000 some dollars left.
Right.
Obviously, with the economy improving, we may not get a lot more requests. Is that something that later on we can move to other ARPA approved projects?
We could, however, in January and February of this year, a lot of this business improvement has been paid out.
Okay.
It was not included in the budget, but it has been paid out. And that's why we're including it here in the supplemental. What does not get paid out could be used for other ARPA funds. I can get back to you on what is remaining. I think all of it will be spent.
Okay.
Can I speak to that just real quick?
Sure.
We had our first round of the BIAP grant awards, and I think at the end of that, we had about, this isn't the exact number, right about $75,000 left. So we advertised the second round. We're hoping to get a little bit more interest. But any funds that don't get spent, we'll just go right back into the ARPA.
Okay.
Cool.
And then second question, don't need a lot of details, but tax receipts so far this year, are we ahead of plan, behind plan, on plan?
Yeah, the receipts that we have received this year were for November and December of 2021, and they were above plan, above budget. We're about even with what we received this month for January receipts.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Councilmember Corey.
So I saw here for the grant for Prado Drive, ADA improvements, I'm assuming that's sidewalks, correct?
Yes.
Will there be any work done to the road as well?
I
No,
don't
just
think so.
sidewalks?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I was wondering. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I was reading an article about some of the president is considering telling some cities they have to return some of the ARPA funds that are being used for inappropriate projects. I assume you're working really carefully off the approved list.
Yeah.
Okay, no monuments or things like, some city built a monument with some ARPA funds.
Yeah, no, we definitely. I know. I felt like he was.
There are a number of us, including our city manager, who have taken webinars on this and training. Our auditors also provided some training that specifically details what we can and cannot spend those funds on. So we are being very studious about how we ask you to appropriate the funds and where they get spent.
Okay, good, thank you.
If I could add one more thing. I don't know if you remember the original document I brought to the city council that outlined every single pre-proposed idea under ARPA. And I don't know if you recall, it specifically listed the language in the ARPA guidelines that allowed that. And we really wanted to tie it very closely so that we weren't getting creative with any. I mean, I know some cities are trying to get creative and stretch things to something that may not quite be there. We took the ARPA guidelines very literally, and we've tied every single expenditure to something specifically in ARPA that said, yeah, you can do this.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I don't think it hurts to review that and just say, for transparency's sake, what we are doing and how we are doing it. Okay, thank you.
So are there any other questions?
I am not seeing any other lights up here, but tonight, that doesn't mean much, does it?
Well, with that, staff would recommend to City Council that you approve Resolution 2212.
Okay, I'm going to pause here for just a second because I was under the impression it would tell me who, I don't have that. Oh. Okay, I got another window.
We're getting
All right, so according to this then, it looks like Councilmember Rick, which I have to go back to another screen to turn his microphone on, is that correct? Okay.
Move to approve Resolution 22-012, resolution amending the appropriation of fiscal year 2022 budgeted funds.
Okay, and it looks like Councilmember Applegate had his microphone on next. Paul, feel free to turn mics on.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Duncan, were you just going to second it or did you have a question for discussion? Okay, all right, thank you. All righty, and okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. I only have 5 votes on my screen.
That's all I show as well.
Okay, so please make sure you push not the old button, but the yes button on your computer.
Madam Mayor, I show that Councilmember Duncan and Mayor Pro Tem Estes have yet to vote.
Okay, did the bar turn black when you hit it?
7 yes,
Okay.
motion carried.
All right,
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
all right. The struggles are real. We're getting there. We're getting there. A lot of grace tonight, right? Okay. Brings us to item 10, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. And I don't know if anybody had any meetings this last week, but if primary or alternates who attended, please report on any meetings during your time. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything.
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing for me either.
Very briefly, police officers went into our old stock of body armor. We found body armor that was serviceable, some of it out of its service life or just approaching it. We took 40 helmets and about 15 ballistic vests down to Pueblo today to ship to Ukraine to support freedom of that country. So if you're in that country and you're fighting for your life, that equipment will be very good. But a really awesome event, and the police officers worked real hard to put that together for them. So I just wanted to let you know that.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship.
Nothing this evening.
All right, Mr. Trilch.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to briefly report out on how we're doing on promotion of the My Fountain CO app. We've had a really strong response. in the community. We have so far over 1,300 downloads of the app since we launched it in February. These are very strong numbers. In fact, our app host GoGovs said that that's very good numbers, and they were even curious about how we were doing that. We've been, as you know, working hard to promote that in all over our social media, our website, and even use some of our established media in the region to encourage people to download that. So, by comparison, we've had our Facebook page for 4.5 years and we have 7,500 followers. So to get 1,300 people to download that app in a month is pretty impressive. And so I'd encourage everybody to, encourage everyone to download that My Fountain CO app. It's a really great way to just get connected with the city right away.
Do we know if the amount of things being reported have kept proportion to how many people? I mean, is there a huge increase in things being reported through the app, or?
Yeah, we can look into that. We certainly can see, but I don't have that.
I looked through that today, and over the last several weeks, most of the users are the users that have been using it for the last couple of years. There's a few new names, but there's definitely some that report a lot.
And it links to a wide variety or a broader variety of city information than it did before. So.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. As spring is coming and people are wanting parks for a variety of reasons, they can find the information there. Ms. Martinez.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Rick.
Yes, two thank yous tonight. One for Chief Heber. We had an incident this weekend. Police department was out in full force trying to help somebody not end their life. We went to cold reporting for a valid reason. Some residents didn't understand why that was. I reached out to the chief. He reached out to the public and kind of explained to them what was going on. I appreciate your outreach, specifically on the weekend, so thank you for that. Also for Mr. Blankenship, we had an individual at 9:30 last night have an issue with their water. They weren't sure who to contact. They got a hold of me. I got a hold of Mr. Blankenship, and he was able to have his people resolve the issue quickly. So thank you to both of you for answering on your time off. I try and respect your time off as much as I can, but thank you for responding.
We do still have the after hours emergency number, right? Where people just call the regular water department, and then the after service hour team would send someone out.
We do, but I think that they called the number is what I understand, and either didn't wait to get all the way through the message. We checked that this morning to make sure that it's still operable. It is, but anytime that there is a problem, we'll address it in any way that we're notified.
Right. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure so that everybody doesn't think they have to call Councilmember Rick the entire town to get service after hours. So
Please don't do that.
All right. Okay, Mr. Hinton. Had pushed it. Okay, there we go.
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Corey.
Nothing at this time, Mayor Thompson.
My one troublemaker who's down the road. Councilmember Estes.
I did attend last week, we had a virtual meeting with the Colorado Scope team, which is the latest round of the PFAS testing. And they're slowly making progress, getting people in to get the testing done. I encourage anybody that has been here, that meets the criteria of living here at the right timeframes, to consider getting signed up for that. The number is on their website. The website is co-scope, SCOPE, .org, I think, is it? But anyway, they're getting a hard time getting kids in. And it's going to be a hard sell because it takes several hours to do the kids because they're doing neuro assessments on the kids. So if you know anybody, I'd encourage them throughout the whole Fountain Valley area. So, and we're just trying to get the people in to get that done. So.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah, I went to the economic development meeting last night, just afternoon, and it was pretty lively discussion and sometimes hostile. And Kimberly did a great job at trying to explain to them, but somehow they didn't seem to understand quite what she was trying to get at. So I don't know what we could do about that to try to get our message across. The difficulty in the store over here on 85, 87. They just kept coming at it with her, but she handled it really well. That was a good job. That's all.
So people that are curious about that, the video still is online under urban renewal, right? I believe, John?
It is still online. In fact, they brought it up last night. The video, they quoted even from it. So we did, staff did get together today and talk about the meeting and some of the outcomes and some approaches that we could use to inform that group and others about the status of the, the search for a grocer in this area. So more to follow. Staff can follow up.
Hopefully you can get them to understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Duncan?
I did also attend the tail end of the economic development meeting. I got several calls and emails. It seems like they were not happy about what was going on at the meeting. So I did ask them to meet with you, and I met with Kimberly afterwards to talk about, what their concerns were and to have along with the agenda, the meeting notes so that you can have them to review. I also attended the Broomfield Initiative meeting that was earlier. So that's why I wasn't there at the economic development meeting when it started. And they also said that we, they were kept calling for Kimberly, but of course she couldn't be in two places at one time. So, but they did fill in and they talked about Fountain and they talked about the Fountain Creek corridor, which was great. The governor announced today that universal pre-K will be provided to 10 hours of free preschool. So I know a lot of parents are excited about that. We need, this is a game changer and it'll be for every single child in Colorado. And I think that's wonderful. I also attended the Children's Chorale. They had their 16th annual breakfast and they had lots of community leaders there celebrating the youth arts. My child was once a part of the chorale, so it's very dear to my heart. In recognition of Women's History Month, I was honored to read at the Pikes Peak Children's Museum. There are a lot of little kiddos there. There's a really neat museum. They have a science room. They have a STEM room where they use the computer and they have all these little robots on the floor. So it's really a very nice place for children. And I'm hoping that they can bring that here to Fountain. Today I got to go to the Capitol and witness the hearing for the Juneteenth as a state holiday. And I think that's all I have, other than thanks for lighting up our building yellow and blue in solidarity with Ukraine. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, I was glad to see that you were able to fit in the story at the museum. They asked all of us to go, and boy, just crazy month this month. So I was glad to see the photos online that you were able to attend that. I'd like to give a shout out to our Fountain Valley Senior Center. They are on the front page with their service dog, the Life After 50. And for those of you under 30, yes, there's Life After 50. Okay. So a really nice article in there. So if you see them around town, pick it up. and give it a read. And that's Emmett, the service dog, on the front cover, and he's doing a great job. And the seniors love him, but I understand he's put in the office during lunchtime because he gets a few too many snacks. And would like to give a shout out to a couple people from the senators' offices that were appointed to Military Academy, which is West Point. They got nominations for it. And one of them is a repeat, Kai Pallam. He was already nominated by Lamborn's office also, and he has been accepted to West Point. And I had a great time meeting with his parents during an event. And Leah Stapp also has been nominated to the U.S. Military Academy. And so letters have gone out to those people, or are going to go out to those people. And so that's really exciting. I think that makes 5 or 6 kids from the city of Fountain that got nominations this year to various military academies. So shout out to the schools and the parents that are working real hard on that, because I'm sure those parents start when they're about 5 working on that. And we have one of the largest areas that has the most nominations. Just wanted to bring up one legislative concern, House Bill 22-1272. I did discuss this one with Troy. This bill, our city is in opposition to it. We're opposing it because it is potentially going to put us at risk for a bunch of lawsuits, because you would not be able to get your attorney fees back if someone filed a frivolous lawsuit against the city. And sometimes that's kind of the only reason people don't file a lawsuit, is because they might have to pay everybody's attorney's fees. And so, Troy, I think you agree that that would not be a good thing. And the county was actually speaking out about it today too, and had some pretty serious concerns about it. So that is a bill of concern. All righty, so we have no executive session tonight. Oh, I did want to, one last thing, PPACG. Last month, I had asked to have something pulled off the agenda to be brought back this month that had to do with transit funding, to run through all our citizen groups again, and it did that. We got to PPACG and they pulled it off the agenda at the request of CDOT, because CDOT is now changing the way they allocate funding once again, and they want to take 10% off the top of all the projects. And so they pulled it off the vote to discuss that, because it wouldn't do any good to pass a bunch of money allocated somewhere, and then they changed the formula. I did talk to Brandy about it, how it goes back through TAC. I think the money needs to be allocated proportionally on how many projects you got in the bin, and not just 10% across the board, because that could be extremely painful. A small community, $10,000 or $20,000 is a lot of money to them, and to lose 10% off the top could potentially shelve their project. So that's going to take a lot of discussion and research, and kind of almost felt sorry for the guy delivering the news, almost. So that's something we really need to keep an eye on. So seeing nothing else on our agenda, no executive session, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting, and then we will take a 10-minute break and come back at 7:10. Following the adjournment of the regular city council meeting, the city council will reconvene as the ex officio board of directors of the Fountain General Improvement District Number 2 for action on the following items. So we'll take a 10-minute break. So till 7:10. All right, folks, it's 7:10. Let's get this done. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Would you like to read it into the record?
Tomorrow. Good deal.
We are reconvening now as the ex officio Board of Directors of the Fountain General Improvement District Number 2 for the action on the following items. Resolution 22-013 GID2, a resolution of the Fountain General Improvement District Number 2 to discontinue accepting petitions for inclusion of property into the Fountain General Improvement District Number 2, City of Fountain, Colorado. Mr. Johnson.
I'll come up here and talk. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Got a new microphone and everything. So we've discussed it a little bit last meeting of the GID when we had a specific request come in. And so what you have before you is really just a general applicable policy to adopt as the GID board, given kind of the circumstances and situation that the city finds themselves in. With the purpose for the original GID. And so the policy, kind of the resolution that you have before you is setting that policy of not allowing any more into the general improvement district and not receiving any new applications into the district for all the reasons that we've discussed. So with that, I'll leave it to you for any questions, and Christy's here too if you have any questions that you need somebody that actually knows what they're talking about.
It's me, I have a very dry throat. Okay, does anybody have, I don't know where to look anymore at this point. Hang on a second. Okay, I am not seeing anybody with any lights on. Raise your hand and wave me down if that's not right. Okay, alrighty, so we have the item on here, GID number 2, a resolution to not accept any more petitions for anyone into the general improvement district. Okay, alrighty, is there any discussion on this item? Okay, alrighty, seeing no discussion, do I hear a motion? See a motion. Hang on, I gotta get back to here. Councilmember Applegate, I don't think I turned it on.
There it is.
Okay,
I move to approve resolution 20-013 GID2.
I am touching the microphone and it just is not cooperating. Okay, Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor to discontinue accepting petitions, resolution 22-013 GID2? Seeing none, please vote. Okay.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you. And seeing no further business, we are adjourned again. Okay. All right. That's off.
That's your way. You got to do something done that you really wanted done, right?
Absolutely. Happy.
We turn these off.